Hey there. Tonight we're talking about how a young Lakota man named Chayton, whose name meant falcon, transformed from a restless seeker into a bridge between worlds, creating abundance not just for himself, but for generations of his people through ancient wisdom and modern understanding. His journey from the sacred Black Hills to the modern world shows us how honoring our deepest calling while serving others creates prosperity that flows like the endless rivers across the Great Plains, touching every life with the medicine of authentic abundance and spiritual wealth that honors both individual prosperity and collective healing. Before you drift off, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if this kind of transformative deep sleep hypnosis speaks to you. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and how many days in a row you've been on this manifestation journey. I love seeing how committed this community is becoming. Now dim the lights, get comfortable, and let your mind absorb abundance. As you settle into this moment, imagine yourself transported to a warm summer evening in the heart of the American Great Plains, where the horizon stretches endlessly in all directions and the sky holds the soft golden light of the setting sun like a sacred bowl filled with liquid amber and rose-colored dreams. You can feel the gentle warmth of the late summer air against your skin, carrying with it the sweet fragrance of prairie grass and wild sage, the distant scent of sweet grass and cedar, and the clean, pure smell of approaching rain that promises to nourish the earth and all who dwell upon it. The earth beneath you is solid and supportive, still holding the heat of the day in its vast embrace, and as you breathe deeply, you notice how the vast open space around you seems to expand your own sense of possibility and potential, as if the endless prairie itself is teaching you that there are no limits to what can be accomplished when one aligns with the natural flow of abundance that moves through all things like the eternal wind across the grasslands. This is a land where dreams take root and grow as tall as the prairie grass, where the wind carries whispers of ancient wisdom from the sacred places where the grandfathers and grandmothers walked in the time before memory began, where the spirits of the buffalo still thunder across the plains in great herds of possibility and potential, and where a young man named Chayton is about to discover that his deepest spiritual calling and his greatest material abundance are not separate paths running in different directions, but one flowing river of purpose and prosperity that winds through the landscape of his life, like the Missouri River winds through the heart of his homeland, bringing life and fertility to everything it touches with its sacred waters. In the rolling hills of what would one day be called South Dakota, where the earth rises and falls like the breathing of some vast sleeping giant, as the summer sun painted the western sky in shades of amber and rose gold, vermilion and deep purple, a young Lakota man named Chayton stood at the edge of his village, feeling the restlessness that had been growing in his heart, like a seed seeking sunlight, like a river seeking the sea, like a bird preparing for its first great migration to lands it has never seen, but knows in its bones it must find. At 25 years old, Chayton possessed the lean, strong build of his people, with dark eyes that seemed to hold depths of understanding beyond his years, depths that reflected not just the wisdom of his own experience, but the accumulated knowledge of countless generations who had walked this land before him, who had faced their own seasons of questioning and seeking, and ultimately finding their place in the great web of existence that connects all beings to the source of infinite abundance. His hands moved with a natural grace, whether he was working with leather, crafting the traditional items that connected him to his ancestors, working with wood to create tools and objects of beauty and function, or gathering the sacred herbs his grandmother had taught him to recognize during their long walks across the prairie, teaching him not just which plants healed which ailments, but the deeper understanding that all healing comes from restored relationship, from remembering one's connection to the great mystery that moves through all things and provides for all needs when approached with the proper reverence and understanding. The evening air was warm and sweet, filled with the sounds of children playing in the distance, their laughter mixing with the soft conversation of elders sharing stories by their fires, the gentle nickering of horses in the corral, and the eternal whisper of wind through the grass that seemed to speak directly to his soul in a language older than words, a language that every indigenous person carries in their blood and bones and breath. You can see Chaitin as he moves through this twilight hour, his moccasins making no sound on the earth that has been home to his people for countless generations, his long black hair catching the last rays of sunlight as he walks toward the sacred grove, where he often goes to think and pray and listen to the voices that speak to those who know how to quiet their minds and open their hearts to the deeper currents of wisdom that flow beneath the surface of ordinary consciousness. The cottonwood trees stand like ancient guardians in this place, their leaves rustling with a sound like gentle rain, like the whispered prayers of the ancestors, like the soft breathing of the earth herself as she prepares for the cool rest of evening after the long warmth of the summer day. And as Chaitin settles himself beneath the largest tree, you can feel the deep sense of connection he has to this land, this sky, this moment between day and night, when all possibilities seem to hover in the air, like spirits waiting to be born into manifestation. He has always been different from the other young men of his tribe, not because he lacks courage or strength. Indeed, he is known for his skill as a hunter and his fierce loyalty to his family and community, but because he sees beyond the immediate, beyond the obvious, into layers of meaning and connection that others often miss, into the intricate web of relationship that binds all things together in a pattern too vast and beautiful for ordinary perception to encompass in its entirety. Where others see only the practical needs of daily survival, Chaitin perceives the spiritual significance underlying every action, every choice, every moment of interaction between human beings and the natural world that sustains and nurtures all life with its boundless generosity. As you rest here in this sacred space with Chaitin, breathing in the sweet evening air and feeling the profound peace of this ancient land settle into your bones, like medicine, like prayer, like the blessing of countless generations who have found solace and strength in this very spot, you begin to understand that his restlessness is not dissatisfaction, but recognition, not discontent, but the stirring of a great purpose that has been sleeping in his heart like a bear in winter, waiting for the right moment to awaken and begin the work it came to earth to accomplish. His grandmother, a wise woman whose eyes have seen the buffalo herds that once covered these plains like moving clouds, whose memory holds stories from the time when his people lived in complete harmony with the natural abundance of the earth, has told him since he was small that he carries the gift of seeing, the ability to understand not just what is, but what could be, what should be, what wants to be born through human hands, guided by spiritual wisdom. Tonight, as the first stars begin to appear in the deepening sky like the eyes of the ancestors watching over their descendants with infinite love and patient guidance, that gift is calling to him with a voice as clear as running water, as compelling as the beat of the sacred drum, as undeniable as the pull of the earth on the falling rain. The fire in the center of the village glows like a warm heart in the gathering darkness, and the smoke rises straight up into the still air, carrying with it the prayers and dreams of his people, the hopes and aspirations that have sustained them through seasons of plenty and seasons of struggle, through times of peace and times of upheaval. And Chaitin knows that his own prayers are part of this ancient conversation between earth and sky, between human hearts and the great mystery that moves through all things and responds to the sincere call of those who seek to serve something greater than their own immediate desires. He has always felt this connection deeply, this sense that he is part of something larger than himself, something that flows through the grass and the wind and the very ground beneath his feet, like an underground river of purpose and possibility. And tonight, he can feel that flow calling to him more strongly than ever before, drawing him toward a destiny that will require him to step beyond the familiar boundaries of his current life and embrace a path of service that will challenge him to grow into the fullest expression of his spiritual gifts while creating material abundance that serves not just his own needs, but the welfare of his entire community and beyond. As you breathe with Chaitin in this moment of deep listening, feeling the rhythm of your breath synchronizing with the eternal rhythm of the natural world around you, you can feel how his mind naturally quiets into a state of receptive awareness, how his heart opens like a flower to the subtle currents of wisdom that move through all things, like the circulation of blood through the body, like the flow of seasons through the year, like the migration of birds following invisible pathways written in the stars themselves. His body relaxes into the supportive embrace of the earth that has nurtured his people through all the seasons of their lives, through all the cycles of growth and rest, abundance and renewal. And you can sense that this is the beginning of his vision quest. Though he doesn't know it yet, this moment when his soul begins to align with its deepest purpose, when the seeds of his future abundance begin to stir in the fertile soil of his spiritual awakening. The elder of his tribe, a man named Takoda, whose name means friend to everyone, and whose presence embodies the generous spirit that his name implies, has been watching Chaitin with the knowing eyes of one who has seen many young people struggle to find their path, who has witnessed the sacred process by which the spirits call certain individuals to serve as bridges between the traditional ways and the needs of a changing world. He recognizes in this young man the signs of one who is being called to serve not just his immediate community, but something larger, something that bridges the old ways and the new world that is coming with the speed of prairie fire, bringing both opportunities and challenges that will require new forms of wisdom and new applications of ancient principles. Takoda has lived through the great changes, has seen his people adapt and survive, and find new ways to honor the old wisdom while embracing what serves them in the modern world. And he knows that Chaitin possesses the rare combination of deep spiritual understanding and practical intelligence that will be needed in the years to come. The ability to translate the profound insights of indigenous wisdom into forms that can be understood and applied by people from many different cultural backgrounds who hunger for the kind of authentic connection to meaning and purpose that traditional societies have always provided for their members. As the evening deepens and the stars grow brighter in the vast dome of sky above, scattered like seeds of light across the dark, fertile field of infinite space, Chaitin feels a shift in the air around him, as if the very atmosphere is becoming more receptive to communication from the spirit world, as if the boundaries between the seen and unseen realms are growing thin in the way they always do during the sacred hours when day gives way to night, and the ordinary consciousness gives way to deeper forms of knowing and understanding. He begins to sense presences around him that exist beyond the normal boundaries of sight and sound, presences that feel as real and immediate as the tree against his back or the earth beneath his body, but which operate according to different laws than those that govern the material world. These are not frightening presences, but familiar ones, the spirits of his ancestors who have walked this land and breathed this air and struggled with the same questions that now move through his heart, like rivers seeking the sea, like eagles seeking the highest peaks, like seeds seeking the soil that will allow them to sprout and grow into their full potential. He knows that they have come to guide him toward the understanding he seeks, to help him discover not just what he is meant to do with his life, but how to do it in a way that honors both the traditional wisdom of his people and the practical needs of the contemporary world in which he must find his place and make his contribution. You can feel, with Chaitin, the profound sense of belonging that comes over him in this moment, the recognition that he is not alone in his questioning, but part of an eternal conversation that has been going on since the beginning of time, a conversation between those who seek to understand their place in the great web of existence, and those who have gone before and found their way to wisdom and service and abundance. His breath slows and deepens. His muscles relax into the earth that supports him like the arms of a loving grandmother, and his mind becomes as clear and still as a mountain lake reflecting the stars, ready to receive whatever guidance the spirits have come to share with him. The sacred grove around him seems to pulse with life and energy, as if every tree and stone and blade of grass is participating in this moment of communion, adding its own voice to the great chorus of creation that sings continuously for those who have ears to hear its eternal song of abundance and possibility. The fragrance of sweetgrass and sage drifts on the night air, carrying with it the prayers of his people and the blessings of the plant nations that have sustained human life on this continent since the first humans walked across the land bridge from the old world to the new, bringing with them the sacred knowledge that would allow them to live in harmony with the generous abundance that the earth provides for all her children when they remember their true relationship to the source of all life and prosperity. As you rest in this sacred moment with Chaitin, feeling the deep peace and profound connection that comes from aligning with the eternal rhythms of the natural world, you begin to sense that you too are being called to remember your own connection to the infinite abundance that is your birthright, your own capacity to create prosperity through service and wisdom and authentic relationship with the source of all wealth and well-being that flows through the universe like an endless river of blessing for all who know how to open their hearts and hands to receive it. As the night deepens around Chaitin like a soft blanket woven from starlight and prairie wind, from the dreams of sleeping animals and the quiet breathing of the earth herself, you can sense the profound shift that begins to occur in his consciousness, as if he is gently stepping through a doorway between the everyday world of ordinary concerns and the realm of spirit, where all wisdom resides, like seeds waiting for the right conditions to sprout into understanding, where all possibility exists in potential form, waiting for human hearts and minds aligned with divine purpose to call it forth into manifestation through the power of focused intention and dedicated service. The cottonwood tree above him seems to grow larger and more luminous, its leaves whispering secrets in a language older than words, older than human memory, a language that speaks directly to the soul without the need for translation or interpretation. And the ground beneath him pulses with the steady heartbeat of the earth herself, a rhythm that matches his own breath and draws him deeper into a state of receptive awareness where miracles become as natural as sunrise, where communication with the spirit world becomes as easy as conversation with beloved friends, where the boundaries between self and cosmos dissolve like morning mist before the warming rays of the sun. In this altered state of consciousness, Chaitan begins to see beyond the limitations of linear time, beyond the narrow focus of immediate concerns, beyond the artificial boundaries that separate past from present, from future, into the vast panorama of possibility that stretches before him like the endless prairie under an infinite sky, like the great river of time itself, flowing from the source of all creation toward destinations beyond imagining. The spirits of his ancestors gather around him, not as separate beings, but as aspects of his own deepest wisdom, facets of his own connection to the eternal flow of life that moves through all things like water through stone, shaping and nurturing and creating abundance wherever it flows without resistance or fear, without the artificial limitations that human beings sometimes impose upon the natural generosity of the universe. You can feel yourself drawn into Chaitan's vision, experiencing through his heightened awareness the profound truth that abundance is not something to be grasped or hoarded or competed for, but something that flows naturally when one aligns with the great patterns of giving and receiving that govern all of life. When one remembers that true prosperity comes not from taking more than one needs, but from creating value that serves others while honoring the sacred reciprocity that maintains the balance and harmony of all healthy relationships. In his vision, he sees 7 generations stretching both backward and forward in time, a great river of humanity in which he is both recipient of ancient wisdom and ancestor to future prosperity, both student and teacher, both beneficiary of the abundance created by those who came before him, and creator of the wealth that will sustain and nurture those who will come after him. The vision unfolds like a great painting across the canvas of his mind, showing him scenes of his people, not just surviving, but thriving, not just preserving their culture, but sharing it with the wider world in ways that honor both tradition and innovation, creating prosperity that flows not just to themselves, but to all those whose lives they touch with their wisdom and their work and their generous spirit. He sees himself as an older man, his hair now silver, like moonlight on water, like the first frost on autumn grass, surrounded by young people of all backgrounds who have come to learn from him, not just about the ancient ways of his people, but about how those ways can be applied to create abundance and meaning in the modern world. How the timeless principles of spiritual wisdom can be translated into contemporary forms of prosperity and service that heal both individual lives and entire communities. As you breathe deeply in this moment of expanded awareness, feeling the profound peace and unlimited possibility that flows through Chaitan's vision like a river of liquid light, you can feel how his understanding becomes your understanding, how his connection to the eternal flow of abundance awakens the same connection within your own heart and mind, how his recognition of his sacred purpose calls forth the memory of your own divine mission, your own unique role in the great work of healing and transformation that is unfolding across the earth in this time of great change and opportunity. The spirits around him whisper truths that sink into his consciousness like rain into thirsty earth, like seeds into fertile soil, like medicine into a body ready for healing. And these truths begin to reorganize his entire understanding of what prosperity means and how it can be created. The true wealth comes not from taking, but from giving, not from hoarding, but from sharing, not from competing, but from creating value that serves the highest good of all beings, not from exploitation, but from collaboration, not from fear, but from love, not from scarcity, consciousness, but from the deep knowing that the universe is infinitely abundant and generous, always ready to provide for those who align their lives with the sacred principles that govern all sustainable prosperity. In the depths of his vision, Chaitan sees himself learning from the elders of his tribe, absorbing not just their knowledge, but their way of being, their deep understanding that humans are not separate from nature, but part of it, not meant to dominate the earth, but to work in partnership with all of life, to serve as caretakers and guardians and faithful stewards of the abundance that the Great Spirit provides for all beings, without exception or favoritism. He sees himself mastering the traditional crafts of his people, learning to work with his hands to create objects of beauty and function that carry forward the artistic traditions of his ancestors, but also discovering how these ancient skills can be adapted and applied in contemporary contexts, creating products and services that carry the wisdom and beauty of his culture into the modern marketplace while honoring the sacred principles from which they spring. The vision shows him traveling far beyond his homeland, not to abandon his roots, but to plant seeds of his people's wisdom in soil that has been waiting generations to receive them, creating relationships and opportunities that benefit not just himself, but entire communities of people who hunger for the deep connection to earth and spirit that his culture has preserved through centuries of challenge and change. You can see with his eyes the businesses he will create, the books he will write, the workshops he will lead, the healing centers he will establish, the mentorship programs he will develop, all growing organically from his commitment to serve the highest good while maintaining the integrity of his spiritual path and the authenticity of his cultural identity. As the vision deepens and becomes more specific, more detailed, more immediately practical, Chaitan sees himself developing a unique approach to what the modern world calls life coaching and spiritual guidance, but which his people have always understood as the natural responsibility of those who have learned to listen to the deeper currents of wisdom that flow through all existence, like underground streams that surface only when the conditions are right for their gifts to be shared with those who are ready to receive them. He sees retreat centers built on sacred land, where people from all walks of life come to reconnect with the natural rhythms that modern society has taught them to ignore, learning not just relaxation techniques or stress management methods, but profound principles for creating abundance through alignment with natural law, through remembering their connection to the source of all prosperity. The spirits show him how his work will expand beyond individual healing to community development, beyond personal transformation to social change, beyond helping people solve their immediate financial problems to teaching them how to create systems of abundance that serve multiple generations. His understanding of the interconnectedness of all life will inform projects that bring prosperity to entire regions while healing the earth and strengthening the bonds between different groups of people, creating cooperative ventures that demonstrate how traditional wisdom can be applied to solve contemporary challenges in ways that benefit everyone involved, rather than creating winners and losers. He sees cooperative businesses owned and operated by indigenous communities, sharing their traditional knowledge and crafts with the world in ways that ensure fair compensation and cultural respect, creating sustainable abundance that flows through generations, like rivers fed by eternal springs, like forests that grow more abundant with each passing year, like communities that become stronger and more prosperous through the practice of mutual aid and collective responsibility. These enterprises will serve as models for how ancient principles of reciprocity and relationship can be applied to modern economic structures, creating new forms of prosperity that honor both individual initiative and collective welfare. In the climax of his vision, Chaitan experiences a profound moment of unity consciousness, feeling himself as one with all beings across time and space, understanding at the cellular level that what he gives to others returns to him multiplied, that what he creates for the benefit of future generations becomes the foundation of his own prosperity in ways that transcend ordinary concepts of wealth and success. This understanding settles into his bones, his blood, his breath, becoming not just knowledge, but lived wisdom that will guide every decision he makes from this night forward, every relationship he enters, every project he undertakes, every word he speaks, and action he takes in service of the great work he has been called to accomplish. The vision reveals to him the specific steps he must take to manifest this destiny, showing him not just the final outcome, but the path that will lead him there, the people he will meet, the challenges he will face, the skills he will need to develop, the partnerships he will form, the resources he will require, and the spiritual practices that will sustain him through all the seasons of his journey. He sees himself beginning with simple offerings of his traditional knowledge, teaching workshops on indigenous crafts and healing practices, sharing stories and ceremonies that help people reconnect with their own spiritual roots, gradually building a following of individuals who are drawn to the authenticity and depth of his teachings. As you rest in the glow of Chaitan's vision, feeling the truth of his insights resonating in your own heart like bells awakening in a distant temple, like drums calling the people to ceremony, like the voice of the wind itself speaking through the chambers of your soul, you begin to understand that his story is also your story. That the abundance he has shown is also available to you when you align your life with the same principles of service, wisdom, and spiritual integrity that the vision has revealed to him. The warm summer air around you carries the fragrance of possibility, the sweet scent of dreams becoming reality, and the gentle sound of wind through grass becomes a lullaby of infinite potential, a song of abundance that has been singing since the beginning of time for all who have ears to hear its eternal melody. The vision continues to unfold throughout the night, revealing layer after layer of understanding, showing Chaitan how his personal healing journey will become a pathway for others, how his individual prosperity will create opportunities for community wealth, how his success in bridging traditional and contemporary worlds will open doors for other indigenous entrepreneurs and teachers. He sees himself not as someone who rises above his community, but as someone who lifts his entire community to higher levels of prosperity and recognition. Someone who creates abundance, not just for himself, but for all those whose lives he touches with his gifts and his generosity. In the final phases of the vision, as dawn begins to approach with its promise of new beginnings, Chaitan is shown the ultimate purpose of his work: to help heal the fundamental disconnection between spirituality and prosperity that has caused so much suffering in the modern world, to demonstrate through his own life and work that authentic abundance flows naturally from authentic spiritual practice, that material wealth and spiritual wealth are not opposed to each other, but are different expressions of the same divine source, different facets of the same eternal jewel of consciousness that shines at the heart of all creation. As dawn breaks over the prairie in gentle waves of rose and gold, painting the eastern sky with colors that seem to flow directly from the palette of the Great Spirit, Chaitan awakens from his vision with a sense of profound clarity and purpose that feels as solid and reliable as the earth beneath him, as vast and infinite as the sky above him, as flowing and powerful as the rivers that carve their channels through the landscape of his homeland. The night of revelation has transformed something fundamental in his being, aligning his deepest spiritual insights with his practical understanding of how abundance flows through human communities when guided by wisdom and powered by genuine service to others. When rooted in the sacred understanding that all beings are connected in an intricate web of relationship that extends through space and time to include not just those who walk the earth today, but all the generations that came before and all the generations yet to be born. You can feel the energy of transformation radiating from him, like warmth from a sacred fire, like light from the morning sun, touching everything around him with the glow of new possibility, the vibration of purpose aligned with divine will. Rising from his place beneath the cottonwood tree, Chaitan moves with a new kind of grace, his body expressing the integration of spirit and purpose that has occurred during the night, his steps carrying him back toward his village with the confidence of one who knows exactly what he has come to earth to accomplish, who has received clear guidance about the path he must walk and the work he must do in service of the healing and prosperity of all beings. The morning air is sweet with the fragrance of prairie flowers, black-eyed Susans and purple coneflowers, wild bergamot and goldenrod, and the distant sound of water flowing over stones in the creek that winds through the valley below, and as he walks, you can sense how every element of the natural world seems to welcome him, to recognize in him a human being who has remembered his role as a bridge between the seen and unseen realms, a translator of ancient wisdom into contemporary forms of prosperity and service. The meadowlarks sing from their perches on the fence posts, their liquid notes carrying across the grassland like messages of joy and encouragement. And the red-winged blackbirds call from the cattails in the marsh, their voices joining the great chorus of creation that celebrates each dawn with renewed hope and infinite possibility. The first person he encounters is his grandmother, a woman whose face holds the accumulated wisdom of 8 decades of living close to the earth and the spirits, whose eyes have witnessed the great changes that have swept across the plains like seasons of weather, bringing both challenges and opportunities that have required her people to adapt and evolve while maintaining the essential core of their identity and values. She takes one look at his transformed presence and nods with the satisfaction of one whose prayers have been answered in ways beyond what she had dared to hope, whose patient waiting has been rewarded with the sight of her grandson stepping fully into his spiritual destiny and accepting the sacred responsibility that comes with his gifts. She has been waiting for this moment, knowing that her grandson carries gifts that are needed not just by their people, but by the wider world, talents and insights that can serve as medicine for the spiritual sickness that afflicts so many in the modern era. And she has prepared herself to support his journey into the larger sphere of influence where his work will unfold like a flower opening to receive the morning sun. Her own life has been a preparation for this moment, her own learning and healing, creating the foundation upon which his mission will build. Her own relationship with the spirit world, providing the solid ground from which his flight into expanded service will take wing. Over the next several weeks, as summer deepens into the rich abundance of late season, when the prairie grasses reach their full height and the wildflowers paint the landscape in a tapestry of colors that would make the finest artists weep with envy, Chaitin begins to translate his vision into concrete action, starting with the traditional learning that will form the foundation of all his future work. Under the guidance of the tribal elders, he immerses himself in the ancient practices of his people, not as museum pieces to be preserved unchanged, but as living principles that can adapt and evolve while maintaining their essential power and wisdom, like seeds that can sprout in new soil while still producing the same nutritious fruit that has sustained his people through countless generations. You can feel yourself learning alongside him as he masters the art of listening to the subtle communications of the natural world, developing his ability to read the signs and patterns that reveal the deeper currents of energy and opportunity that flow through all situations like underground rivers, like the migration patterns of birds that follow invisible highways written in the magnetic field of the earth itself. He learns to interpret the language of clouds and wind, to understand the messages carried in the flight of eagles and the calls of coyotes, to recognize the spiritual significance of natural phenomena that modern people often dismiss as mere coincidence or random occurrence. He spends long hours with Dakota, the tribal elder who serves as keeper of the old stories, learning not just the content of these sacred narratives, but their deeper function as maps of human consciousness, as guides for navigating the challenges and opportunities that arise in every generation, as repositories of wisdom that can be applied to solve contemporary problems in ways that honor both practical necessity and spiritual truth. Through Takoda's patient teaching, Chaitan begins to understand how the wisdom contained in these stories can be translated into practical guidance for people of any background who are seeking to create abundance while maintaining their integrity and spiritual connection. The old man's voice carries the authority of one who has lived through many seasons of change and growth, who has seen how the ancient wisdom applies to new circumstances, who understands that tradition is not a museum display, but a living river that must continue to flow if it is to remain pure and vital. Under his guidance, Chaitan learns to see the universal principles underlying the specific cultural forms, to recognize how the truths embedded in Lakota stories can speak to the hearts and minds of people from completely different backgrounds, offering guidance and inspiration that transcends the boundaries of race and culture and speaks to the common human need for meaning and purpose and authentic prosperity. As the days pass in this deep learning, you can observe how Chaitan's understanding expands and deepens, how his natural gifts of intuition and empathy are refined and focused through traditional practices of meditation, ceremony, and communion with the natural world. He learns to enter altered states of consciousness at will, to receive guidance from spiritual sources, to see beyond the surface appearances of people and situations to the underlying patterns of energy and possibility that determine the ultimate outcome of all human endeavors. These skills, which might seem mysterious or supernatural to those unfamiliar with indigenous traditions, are understood by his people as natural capacities that all human beings possess, abilities that can be developed and refined through proper training and spiritual discipline. Working with his grandmother, who is renowned throughout the region for her knowledge of healing plants and traditional remedies, for her ability to diagnose spiritual as well as physical ailments, and to prescribe the appropriate ceremonies and medicines for their healing, Chaitan begins to explore how the ancient understanding of holistic healing can be applied not just to physical ailments, but to the deeper imbalances that prevent people from achieving their full potential for prosperity and happiness. He learns to see scarcity mindset as a form of spiritual illness, a disconnection from the natural flow of abundance that can be healed through the application of traditional wisdom, combined with contemporary understanding of human psychology and motivation. His grandmother teaches him the sacred songs that accompany the gathering and preparation of healing plants, the prayers that must be offered when taking medicine from the earth, the ceremonies that honor the spirit of each plant and ensure that its healing power will be available to those who receive it with proper respect and gratitude. Through her guidance, he begins to understand that all healing is essentially the restoration of right relationship between the individual and their own deepest nature, between human beings and the natural world, between the material and spiritual dimensions of existence, between the individual and the community, between the present moment and the eternal flow of life that connects all beings in a web of mutual interdependence and support. During these months of intensive preparation, Chaitan also begins to develop his understanding of what he will later call sacred commerce, the art of creating business and financial relationships that honor both practical needs and spiritual principles, that generate material abundance while maintaining the sacred reciprocity that keeps all healthy relationships in balance. Under the guidance of several tribal members who have successfully bridged the traditional and modern worlds, who have found ways to earn their living while maintaining their cultural identity and spiritual integrity, he learns how to maintain spiritual alignment while engaging with contemporary economic systems, how to create prosperity that serves not just individual needs, but the welfare of the entire community. You can feel yourself absorbing these same understandings as Chaitan learns to see business not as a separate realm from spirituality, but as another form of sacred relationship, another opportunity to practice the principles of reciprocity, respect, and service that govern all healthy interactions between human beings. He begins to understand that money is simply energy in a particular form, a medium of exchange that can be used to create abundance or scarcity, depending on the consciousness and intentions of those who handle it. A tool that becomes sacred or profane according to the spirit in which it is used and the purposes for which it is employed. The elders teach him that in the traditional economy of his people, wealth was measured not by how much one could accumulate, but by how much one could give away, not by what one could hoard for personal security, but by what one could share for the benefit of the entire community. This principle of generous reciprocity, they explain, is not just a moral ideal, but a practical strategy for creating sustainable abundance, because it ensures that prosperity flows continuously through the community rather than stagnating in private hoards that benefit no one, creating a circulation of wealth that grows stronger with each cycle of giving and receiving. As autumn approaches with its spectacular display of color and its rich harvest of wild foods and medicine plants, when the cottonwood leaves turn the color of pure gold and the sumac bushes glow like flames against the prairie sky, Chaitan takes the next crucial step in his journey by traveling to the nearby city, not to abandon his traditional life, but to begin building bridges between his ancient culture and the contemporary world that surrounds it. His first ventures are simple ones, carefully chosen to honor both his spiritual calling and the practical need to support himself while he develops his larger vision. Selling traditional crafts at local farmers' markets, offering guided nature walks that incorporate indigenous wisdom about plant medicine and natural healing, teaching workshops on traditional storytelling and its applications for modern stress relief and personal development. These initial forays into sacred commerce are both challenging and deeply rewarding, requiring Chaitan to translate concepts that exist naturally in his native language and cultural context into forms that can be understood and appreciated by people from very different backgrounds. People who may have no previous exposure to indigenous ways of thinking, but who carry within themselves the same basic human needs for connection, meaning, and authentic prosperity that his culture has always addressed through its traditional teachings and practices. You can feel with him the satisfaction of seeing how hungry modern people are for the kind of deep connection to earth and spirit that his culture has preserved. How grateful they are to find authentic wisdom that addresses not just their surface desires for success and abundance, but their deeper longing for meaning and purpose and spiritual fulfillment. Through these early experiences, Chaitin begins to develop his unique gift for creating what he calls healing prosperity, abundance that emerges naturally from the restoration of right relationship between individuals, communities, and the natural world. Wealth that serves not only personal needs, but the health and harmony of the larger web of life, of which all beings are part. His workshops and private sessions become increasingly popular as word spreads about his ability to help people not just achieve their financial goals, but discover their authentic path of service, their unique way of contributing to the welfare of the whole, while creating sustainable abundance for themselves and their families. The feedback from his early clients confirms what his vision showed him, that there is a deep hunger in the modern world for the kind of integrated approach to prosperity that his tradition offers, an approach that recognizes the inseparable connection between spiritual development and material abundance, between individual healing and community welfare, between personal success and service to the greater good. People who attend his workshops report not just improvements in their financial situation, but profound shifts in their overall sense of well-being, their relationships with others, their connection to nature, and their understanding of their own purpose and potential. As winter approaches with its long nights of deep contemplation and its opportunities for inner work and visionary practice, when the prairie lies dormant under blankets of snow and the bare trees stand like prayers against the winter sky, Chaitin establishes what will become his permanent pattern of dividing his time between the traditional life of his tribal community and his expanding work in the contemporary world. This rhythm allows him to maintain his spiritual roots while growing his influence and impact, creating a sustainable model for cultural bridge building that honors both authentic tradition and innovative adaptation to changing circumstances, demonstrating that one can be fully indigenous while also being fully contemporary, fully spiritual while also being practical and successful in worldly terms. As winter settles over the Great Plains like a vast white blanket woven from stars and silence, from the dreams of sleeping animals and the patient breathing of the earth herself, resting after the abundant harvest of autumn, Chaitin enters the most transformative phase of his journey, a season of deep inner work and spiritual preparation that will forge his understanding of abundance into a powerful medicine capable of healing not just individual scarcity consciousness, but the collective wounds that keep entire communities trapped in cycles of limitation and struggle. You can feel yourself drawn into the profound stillness of this season, where the earth itself seems to breathe more slowly and deeply, where the veil between worlds grows thin, and communication with the spirit realm becomes as natural as conversation with family members, creating perfect conditions for the kind of inner alchemy that transforms ordinary understanding into wisdom that can change the world. During the long winter nights, as snow drifts against the walls of his grandmother's cabin, and the only sounds are the whisper of wind through bare branches, the occasional call of an owl hunting across the moonlit prairie, and the gentle crackling of the fire that burns continuously in the hearth. Chaitan delves deeper into the mysteries of what his people call the sacred economy, the understanding that true wealth flows through natural cycles of giving and receiving that mirror the circulation of breath through the body, the movement of water through the landscape, the eternal dance of seasons that brings abundance to those who align themselves with its rhythms, rather than fighting against them out of fear or ignorance. In the flickering light of the fireplace, with the ancient wisdom of his ancestors surrounding him like invisible guardians, he begins to receive the deepest teachings of his vision quest, insights that will form the foundation of his life's work and provide the theoretical framework for the practical methods he will develop to help others transform their relationship with money and abundance. These teachings come not through books or lectures, but through direct transmission from the spirit world, through dreams and visions, through the wordless communication that flows between human consciousness and the greater intelligence that moves through all things, like the sap through trees, like the current through rivers, like the wind through the endless grasslands of his homeland. Working with sacred plant medicines under the guidance of his grandmother and the tribal medicine keeper, a revered elder whose knowledge of the healing properties of plants and their spiritual applications has been passed down through generations of careful study and ceremonial practice. Chaitan experiences profound journeys into the heart of abundance consciousness, mystical states where he directly perceives the interconnectedness of all prosperity, the way that wealth created with integrity and spiritual awareness becomes a blessing that radiates outward through countless lives, like ripples spreading from a stone dropped into still water, like light radiating from a source of illumination, like love expanding from a heart that has learned to give without reservation or fear. In these expanded states of awareness, you can feel, with him, the absolute certainty that scarcity is an illusion, a form of spiritual amnesia that causes people to forget their essential connection to the infinite creativity and generosity of the universe itself, to the boundless source of all wealth and well-being that flows continuously through all dimensions of existence, seeking always to manifest itself through willing human channels who have learned to align their consciousness with the natural laws that govern all sustainable prosperity. The medicine shows him how scarcity consciousness is maintained by false beliefs about the nature of reality, by conditioning that teaches people to see themselves as separate from the source of abundance rather than as expressions of it, by cultural programming that promotes competition over cooperation, hoarding over sharing, fear over trust. These medicine journeys reveal to Chaitan the deeper patterns underlying his vision of 7 generations, showing him how abundance created in alignment with natural law becomes a legacy that continues to generate prosperity and healing long after the original creator has returned to the spirit world, like seeds that continue to produce fruit for many seasons, like teachings that continue to guide and inspire long after the teacher has moved on to other realms of service. He sees how his own work will establish what he comes to think of as abundance bloodlines, lineages of prosperity consciousness that pass from teacher to student, parent to child, mentor to protege. creating an ever-expanding network of people who understand how to create wealth while serving the highest good of all beings. The plant medicines also reveal to him the specific healing protocols that can help people release the ancestral trauma and limiting beliefs that keep them trapped in poverty consciousness, showing him how the same spiritual technologies that indigenous healers have used for centuries to treat physical and emotional ailments can be adapted to address what he recognizes as epidemic financial dysfunction in modern society. He learns to identify the energetic signatures of different forms of money trauma, to recognize how childhood experiences with scarcity create lasting patterns of fear and limitation that continue to sabotage abundance in adult life, to develop specific remedies and practices that can heal these wounds at their root, rather than merely addressing their symptoms. Through the winter months, as you rest in the deep peace of this contemplative season, feeling the profound stillness that comes when nature enters its season of rest and renewal, Chaitan also receives practical guidance about the specific forms his work will take as it expands into the wider world. He sees himself establishing what will become known as the Sacred Commerce Institute, a center for learning that teaches indigenous principles of abundance to people from all cultural backgrounds, helping them discover how to create prosperity through authentic service while maintaining spiritual integrity and environmental responsibility, demonstrating that business can be a form of prayer, that commerce can be a form of ceremony, that the creation of wealth can be an act of healing and blessing for the entire web of life. The visions show him developing a comprehensive system of teachings that he will call medicine wheel economics, based on the sacred understanding that sustainable abundance emerges from balancing 4 essential elements represented by the 4 directions of the medicine wheel. Vision in the East, representing the ability to see beyond current limitations to future possibilities. The capacity to dream new realities into being through the power of focused intention and unwavering faith. Relationship in the South, representing the creation of authentic connections that serve mutual benefit. The understanding that all prosperity flows through networks of trust and reciprocal support. Action in the West, representing the willingness to work consistently and skillfully toward manifested goals. The practical application of spiritual principles through dedicated effort and persistent engagement with the material world. And wisdom in the North, representing the deep understanding of natural laws that govern all lasting prosperity. The integration of ancient knowledge with contemporary insight that allows for the creation of abundance that serves not just immediate needs, but the welfare of future generations. You can feel how this framework provides a complete path for transforming scarcity consciousness into abundance awareness, a practical spirituality that works as effectively in boardrooms as in sacred circles, offering guidance that is both deeply rooted in traditional wisdom and immediately applicable to contemporary challenges. The medicine wheel model ensures that prosperity work addresses all dimensions of human experience, recognizing that lasting abundance requires not just practical skills, but spiritual alignment, not just individual effort, but community support, not just short-term success, but long-term sustainability. As winter deepens and the teachings continue to unfold through dreams, visions, and direct communication with the ancestral spirits, Chaitan begins to understand his role as what the traditions call a prosperity medicine person, a healer who specializes in helping individuals and communities transform their relationship with wealth and abundance. He sees how the same spiritual technologies that his people have always used for healing physical ailments and restoring psychological balance can be applied to the treatment of what he recognizes as epidemic financial dysfunction in modern society. Conditions that prevent people from achieving their natural birthright of prosperity and abundance. The spirits reveal to him that most people's struggles with money are not really about money at all, but about deeper issues of self-worth, spiritual disconnection, and cultural conditioning that have severed their awareness of their natural abundance birthright. Their connection to the infinite source of all wealth and well-being that flows continuously through all dimensions of reality. Through ceremonial work, plant medicine healing, vision quest processes, and other traditional practices adapted for contemporary use, he will help people release the ancestral trauma and limiting beliefs that keep them trapped in survival consciousness, opening them to receive the prosperity that is their spiritual inheritance as children of an infinitely abundant universe. During the darkest nights of winter, when the veil between worlds grows thin and communication with the spirit realm becomes as natural as conversation with family members, when the silence is so complete that one can hear the stars singing in their courses across the infinite dome of sky, Chaitan receives detailed guidance about establishing healing centers that will serve as anchor points for the new abundance consciousness he is called to midwife into manifestation. He sees sanctuaries built on sacred land where people can come to reconnect with the natural rhythms that modern life has taught them to ignore, learning not just techniques for creating wealth, but profound principles for living in right relationship with all of life, understanding that true prosperity flows from alignment with the same natural laws that govern the growth of plants, the flow of rivers, and the migration of birds. These centers will offer immersion experiences that combine traditional indigenous practices with contemporary therapeutic approaches, creating powerful synergies that accelerate healing and transformation in ways that neither approach could achieve alone. You can feel the excitement building in Chaitan's heart as he envisions programs that help participants not just overcome their individual financial limitations, but become agents of positive change in their families, communities, and organizations, spreading the medicine of abundance consciousness like seeds carried on favorable winds to fertile ground wherever they land, creating ripple effects of healing and prosperity that extend far beyond the original participants. The vision shows him retreat programs that take participants through complete cycles of death and rebirth, helping them release old patterns of scarcity and limitation while awakening to new possibilities for prosperity and service. These intensive experiences will combine traditional healing ceremonies, vision quest processes, plant medicine journeys, and other indigenous practices with contemporary methods of trauma healing, psychological integration, and practical business training, creating comprehensive transformation that addresses the whole person rather than just their financial symptoms. He sees participants arriving at these centers, carrying the weight of generations of poverty consciousness, limiting beliefs inherited from ancestors who survived great hardships and developed coping strategies that served them in times of scarcity, but now limit their descendants in times of potential abundance. Through the healing work offered at the centers, these ancestral patterns are lovingly released and transformed, replaced with new programming that aligns with prosperity, consciousness, and abundance awareness, creating lasting change that benefits not just the individual participants, but their children and their children's children for 7 generations into the future. As winter gradually gives way to the first tentative signs of spring, with longer days and the occasional sound of geese calling overhead in their ancient migration patterns, with the subtle shift in the quality of light that speaks of warming earth and awakening life, Chaitan emerges from his season of deep preparation with a clarity of purpose and a depth of preparation that transforms his very presence into a transmission of abundance consciousness. When people meet him now, they sense immediately that they are in the presence of someone who has touched the source of authentic prosperity and learned to embody its principles in every aspect of his being. Someone who radiates the quiet confidence that comes from knowing one's place in the great web of existence and accepting the sacred responsibility that comes with spiritual gifts. The first manifestation of his expanded vision comes in the form of an unexpected invitation to speak at a conference on indigenous wisdom and sustainable economics at a major university, an opportunity that arrives through what others might call coincidence, but which Chaitan recognizes as the natural result of his alignment with his highest purpose, the way that the universe responds to clear intention backed by spiritual power and practical preparation. As you feel the warmth of early spring sunshine on your face and breathe the sweet air that carries hints of green growth and new possibilities, you can sense the anticipation building in Chaitan's heart as he prepares to carry his medicine into the wider world, knowing that his real work is about to begin, that his time of preparation is giving way to his time of service, that the seeds planted during his long winter of learning are about to sprout into manifestation. As spring returns to the Great Plains with its explosion of wildflowers and the joyful songs of returning birds, with the meadowlarks calling from every fence post and the red-winged blackbirds trilling from the cattails in the marsh, with the whole earth seeming to vibrate with the energy of new life and unlimited possibility, Chaitan steps fully into his destiny as a bridge between ancient wisdom and contemporary prosperity, carrying the medicine of abundance consciousness into a world that hungers for authentic solutions to the spiritual crisis underlying most financial struggle. You can feel the vibrant energy of new growth all around you as you follow his journey into this expanded phase of service, where every action becomes a ceremony, every business transaction a sacred exchange, and every teaching an opportunity to plant seeds of transformation that will continue growing for 7 generations, spreading abundance consciousness like wildfire across the prairie of human possibility. The university speaking engagement becomes a pivotal moment in Chaitan's emergence as a teacher of indigenous abundance principles. As his presentation on the sacred economy, traditional ecological knowledge, and sustainable prosperity attracts not just academic interest, but the attention of business leaders, spiritual seekers, and cultural activists who recognize in his teachings the missing piece they have been searching for in their own quests for meaningful success. You can feel yourself in that auditorium, listening to his warm, powerful voice as he weaves together ancient stories and contemporary insights, creating a tapestry of understanding that transforms how everyone present thinks about the relationship between spirituality and prosperity, between individual success and collective welfare, between making money and making meaning. His presentation begins with the traditional acknowledgement of the land and the ancestors. But rather than being a mere formality, these words carry the power of lived experience, the authority of someone who has actually walked the path between worlds and learned to embody the wisdom he shares. As he speaks of the indigenous understanding that all beings are interconnected in a web of sacred relationship, that prosperity flows naturally when one aligns with the principles of reciprocity and service, that abundance is not something to be hoarded, but something to be shared for the benefit of all. You can see the audience leaning forward, hungry for wisdom that addresses not just their minds, but their souls, not just their bank accounts, but their deepest longing for purpose and meaning. From this initial success, opportunities begin flowing to Chaitan with the natural abundance of a river in spring flood, each one perfectly aligned with his vision and values, each one offering new ways to share the wisdom he has received while creating sustainable prosperity for himself and his community. Corporate executives invite him to consult on organizational culture and employee engagement, discovering that his indigenous understanding of reciprocity and relationship creates more productive and satisfying work environments than any conventional management approach they have tried. Spiritual communities ask him to lead retreats on conscious wealth creation, finding that his combination of practical guidance and profound spiritual insight helps participants break through limitations that have restricted their abundance for decades. The requests for his services come from unexpected directions and take forms he never could have imagined during his original vision quest. But each one feels like a natural expression of the purpose he glimpsed during that transformative night beneath the cottonwood tree. A group of sustainable business leaders invites him to keynote their annual conference, where his presentation on abundance as spiritual practice receives a standing ovation and leads to consulting contracts with several pioneering companies that are seeking to integrate indigenous wisdom into their business practices. A network of holistic healers asks him to develop a training program on prosperity consciousness for healers, recognizing that many spiritual practitioners struggle with money issues that limit their ability to serve others effectively. As summer arrives, with its long, warm days and the sweet fragrance of prairie grasses reaching toward the sun, with the thunderclouds building on the western horizon and the evening air filled with the songs of cicadas and the calls of nighthawks diving through the twilight sky, Chaitan establishes the first physical location of his Sacred Commerce Institute on a beautiful piece of land overlooking a meandering river, where the sound of flowing water provides a constant reminder of the natural abundance that moves through all of life when allowed to flow, without obstruction or fear. The center is designed according to traditional principles, but built with modern, sustainable technologies, creating a space that honors both ancient wisdom and contemporary innovation, where people from all backgrounds can come to learn how to create prosperity through alignment with natural law. The land itself becomes an integral part of the teaching, with medicine gardens where participants can learn about the healing properties of native plants, walking trails that lead to sacred spots for meditation and ceremony, and outdoor spaces where workshops and gatherings can be held under the open sky with the wind and the birds and the rustling of leaves providing the soundtrack for transformation. The buildings are constructed using traditional materials and methods wherever possible, with local stone and timber, with orientations that honor the four directions and designs that facilitate the flow of natural energy, creating spaces that feel simultaneously ancient and timeless, rooted in tradition, yet perfectly suited for contemporary needs. The programs offered at the Institute quickly gain international recognition as Chaitin's unique combination of indigenous wisdom, practical business guidance, and profound spiritual insight proves to be exactly what many successful but spiritually unsatisfied people have been seeking. His signature program, the 7 Generations Prosperity Path, takes participants through a year-long journey of transformation that begins with healing ancestral money trauma and culminates with the creation of businesses and projects that generate abundance while serving the welfare of future generations, demonstrating that it is not only possible but essential to create wealth in ways that honor both individual needs and collective responsibility. You can see yourself as one of these participants, feeling the profound shift that occurs as Chaitin guides you through traditional healing ceremonies adapted for contemporary use, helping you release the cultural conditioning and family patterns that have limited your financial flow while awakening your natural gifts for creating value and serving others. Through Vision Quest experiences that take you deep into the wilderness of both inner and outer landscapes, through plant medicine journeys that reveal the interconnectedness of all prosperity, through intensive mentorship in the principles of sacred commerce that show you how to align your business practices with your spiritual values, you discover capacities within yourself that you never knew existed, abilities to see opportunities where others see obstacles, to create solutions that benefit everyone involved, to generate prosperity that feels aligned with your deepest values and highest aspirations. The year-long program structure allows for deep transformation rather than superficial change, recognizing that shifting from scarcity consciousness to abundance awareness requires time, patience, and ongoing support. Participants begin with a comprehensive assessment of their current relationship with money, identifying the beliefs, patterns, and ancestral influences that have shaped their financial reality. Then, progress through carefully designed stages of healing, learning, and practical application that gradually replace old programming with new possibilities. The program includes monthly in-person gatherings at the Institute, weekly online group sessions, individual mentoring calls, and home study materials that reinforce the teachings and provide practical tools for implementation. As autumn arrives with its spectacular display of color, and its rich harvest of wild foods and healing plants, with the cottonwood leaves turning pure gold and the sumac bushes glowing like flames against the prairie sky, with the geese calling overhead in their great V formations, pointing toward warmer lands. Chaitin's influence continues to expand through the books he writes, the online courses he creates, and the network of certified teachers who carry his methods into communities around the world. His first book, The Medicine of Abundance, Indigenous Wisdom for Conscious Wealth Creation, becomes an international bestseller, not through aggressive marketing, but through organic, word-of-mouth recommendations from readers whose lives have been transformed by its teachings. People who discover in its pages not just techniques for making money, but a completely new way of understanding the relationship between spirituality and prosperity. The success of the book leads to speaking engagements at major conferences and events around the world, where Chaitin's presence alone seems to shift the energy of entire audiences, helping them remember forgotten truths about their own capacity for creating abundance through authentic service and spiritual alignment. His talks are not just presentations, but ceremonies, carefully crafted experiences that leave participants feeling more connected to their purpose, more confident in their abilities, and more committed to creating prosperity that serves the highest good of all beings. The combination of practical wisdom and spiritual power that characterizes his teaching style creates lasting change rather than temporary inspiration, helping people make fundamental shifts in consciousness that continue to unfold long after the event has ended. Each speaking engagement becomes an opportunity to identify potential students for the Institute's programs, to connect with local leaders who can help establish regional centers, and to plant seeds of abundance consciousness in communities that are ready to embrace new models of prosperity and success. Chaitin develops a network of associates and partners around the world, indigenous teachers and spiritual entrepreneurs who share his vision of creating abundance through service and who are qualified to teach aspects of his methodology in their own cultural contexts, ensuring that the wisdom remains authentic while adapting to different linguistic and cultural environments. During the winter months, as snow once again blankets the prairie in pristine silence, and the Institute enters its season of deep inner work and intensive training programs, Chaitin expands his vision to include the creation of investment funds and business incubators specifically designed to support enterprises that combine profit with purpose, creating financial vehicles that allow conscious investors to generate returns while funding projects that heal the earth and strengthen communities. These innovative funding mechanisms demonstrate the practical application of indigenous economic principles, showing how abundance can be created through partnership rather than competition, through serving the welfare of the whole rather than maximizing individual gain at the expense of others. The Sacred Commerce Capital Fund, as it becomes known, operates according to principles that would have been familiar to Chaitin's ancestors. Investments are evaluated not just for their potential financial returns, but for their impact on 7 generations. Businesses are supported not just with money, but with mentorship and community connections. And profits are shared in ways that strengthen the entire network of relationships rather than concentrating wealth in the hands of a few. This approach to investing attracts both traditional financiers who are seeking more meaningful ways to deploy their capital and social entrepreneurs who need funding sources that understand and support their mission-driven approach to business. You can feel the excitement and satisfaction in Chaitin's heart as he witnesses the ripple effects of his work spreading far beyond anything he could have imagined during his original vision quest. As former students establish their own prosperity teaching centers in cities around the world, as business leaders implement sacred commerce principles in their organizations with remarkable results, as entire communities transform their relationship with wealth and abundance through the application of traditional wisdom to contemporary challenges. The river of prosperity he has tapped into flows not just through his own life, but through countless others, creating networks of abundance that strengthen with each passing season, demonstrating that when one person aligns fully with their spiritual purpose while serving others, the effects multiply exponentially. The success of the Institute and its graduates begins to attract attention from academic researchers who are interested in documenting the effectiveness of indigenous approaches to business and personal development. University partnerships are established that allow for rigorous study of the outcomes achieved by participants in the sacred commerce programs, providing scientific validation for what Chaitin has always known through spiritual insight, that approaches to prosperity rooted in traditional wisdom and spiritual principles produce not just better financial results, but greater life satisfaction, stronger relationships, better physical health, and more meaningful contribution to community welfare. These research partnerships also create opportunities for Chaitin to work with younger generations, developing programs specifically designed for college students and recent graduates who are entering a rapidly changing economy and seeking alternatives to traditional career paths that often sacrifice meaning for money. The Next Generation Sacred Commerce program becomes one of the Institute's most popular offerings, attracting young people from around the world who are drawn to the possibility of creating businesses and careers that align with their values while generating sustainable abundance for themselves and their communities. As you rest in the deep peace of this winter evening, feeling the profound satisfaction that comes from witnessing a life lived in complete alignment with purpose, you begin to understand that Chaitin's story is not just the tale of one man's journey from vision to manifestation, but a template for your own transformation, a map of possibilities that shows how ancient wisdom can be applied to create contemporary abundance. The warm feeling of prosperity consciousness settles into your bones, your breath, your very cells, as you absorb the understanding that abundance is not something you must chase or struggle to achieve, but something that flows naturally when you align your life with the principles of service, wisdom, and authentic relationship that Chaitin has demonstrated through his remarkable journey. The Institute's influence continues to grow through partnerships with other organizations that share its values and vision, creating a network of conscious businesses, healing centers, educational institutions, and community organizations that support each other in creating abundance while serving the greater good. These partnerships demonstrate the indigenous principle that prosperity multiplies when it is shared, that collaboration creates more abundance than competition, and that the welfare of the individual and the welfare of the community are not separate concerns, but aspects of the same sacred responsibility. In the final scenes of our story, as spring returns once again to the Great Plains and Chaitin, now a mature man whose silver-streaked hair reflects the wisdom of his years, like moonlight on water, like frost on autumn grass, stands overlooking the thriving community that has grown around his institute, like a sacred grove around a spring of pure water. You can see the 7 generations of his original vision coming to fruition in ways more beautiful and far-reaching than even his most expansive dreams had dared to imagine. The sound of children's laughter drifts up from the playground built near the learning center, where the sons and daughters of former students play games that incorporate the wisdom teachings they are absorbing naturally, unconsciously, the way children learn languages by breathing them in from the atmosphere around them. These children represent something entirely new in human history, a generation raised from birth with abundance consciousness, taught from their earliest years that prosperity is their birthright, that their individual success is inseparable from the welfare of all beings, that the creation of wealth is a sacred responsibility that must be approached with wisdom, integrity, and deep reverence for the interconnectedness of all life. You can see in their bright eyes and confident movements the ease and naturalness that comes when scarcity consciousness has never taken root, when the possibility of abundance has never been questioned, when the principles of sacred commerce are as familiar as the rules of any childhood game. Watching these children play, Chaitin reflects on the journey that brought him to this moment. The path that began with a restless young man seeking his purpose beneath a cottonwood tree, and has led to a global movement that is quietly but persistently transforming how human beings think about wealth, success, and the relationship between spiritual development and material prosperity. The institute he established on this sacred piece of prairie land has become the flagship of a network that now includes centers on every continent, each one adapted to its local culture, but all sharing the core understanding that authentic abundance flows from alignment with natural law, from service to others, from the recognition that individual prosperity and collective welfare are not competing values, but complementary aspects of the same divine purpose. The morning sun streams through the windows of his office, where he is reviewing applications for the newest program, Indigenous Economics for Global Leaders, designed specifically for heads of state, corporate executives, and other influential decision-makers who are beginning to recognize that the current economic systems are not sustainable, and that indigenous wisdom offers essential guidance for creating prosperity that serves both current needs and the welfare of future generations. The applications come from every corner of the globe, from people whose names appear regularly in business magazines and newspapers, from individuals who have achieved conventional success, but recognize that something essential is missing from their understanding of abundance and its true purpose. Among the applications is one from a young woman whose grandmother attended one of Chaitin's first workshops decades ago, and whose family has been practicing sacred commerce principles ever since, creating a small business empire that has provided employment and prosperity for their entire community while maintaining strict adherence to environmental and social responsibility. Her application essay speaks eloquently of her desire to expand her family's approach to include larger-scale projects that can address poverty and environmental degradation on a global scale, demonstrating how the teachings continue to evolve and expand through successive generations of students and practitioners. Another application comes from the CEO of a major technology company who credits Chaitin's book with saving both his business and his marriage, helping him realize that the relentless pursuit of profit at any cost was destroying everything he claimed to value most. After implementing sacred commerce principles in his organization, he has seen not only increased profitability, but dramatically improved employee satisfaction, reduced turnover, and innovations that are helping to solve some of the world's most pressing environmental challenges. His application requests intensive training that will prepare him to teach these principles to other business leaders, recognizing that transformation of the global economy will require leadership from within the existing power structures. As Chaitin reads these applications, you can feel his deep satisfaction at seeing how the seeds planted during his vision quest have grown into a forest of possibility. Each new student and program and partnership creating exponential multiplication of the abundance consciousness he was called to share with the world. The work has expanded far beyond what any single person could accomplish, becoming a living organism that continues to grow and evolve through the contributions of thousands of dedicated practitioners around the world, each one adding their own unique gifts and insights to the ever-expanding body of knowledge and practice that constitutes the contemporary application of ancient wisdom to modern prosperity challenges. The Institute's research department has documented remarkable results from the various programs. Participants in the 7 Generations Prosperity Path show average income increases of 400% within 5 years of completing the program. But more importantly, they report dramatic improvements in life satisfaction, relationship quality, physical health, and sense of purpose and meaning. The businesses created by Institute graduates demonstrate consistently higher levels of employee satisfaction, customer loyalty, and community impact while maintaining strong profitability and sustainable growth. The investment funds, guided by sacred commerce principles, have outperformed traditional investment vehicles while funding projects that create positive social and environmental impact, proving that ethical investing is not only possible, but more profitable than approaches that ignore the interconnectedness of all prosperity. Academic researchers from major universities have begun incorporating the Institute's findings into their curricula, recognizing that indigenous wisdom offers essential perspectives that have been missing from a traditional business and economics education. Several major business schools now offer courses based on sacred commerce principles, and there is a growing movement among younger faculty members to fundamentally restructure business education around principles of sustainability, service, and spiritual alignment, rather than the narrow focus on profit maximization that has characterized the field for so many decades. The afternoon brings a visit from a delegation of tribal leaders from various indigenous communities across North and South America, who have come to discuss the formation of an Indigenous Prosperity Alliance that will coordinate economic development efforts across tribal boundaries, sharing resources and expertise to create sustainable abundance that honors traditional values while engaging effectively with contemporary economic realities. This alliance represents the fulfillment of another aspect of Chaitin's original vision: the understanding that indigenous peoples have unique contributions to make to the healing of global economic dysfunction, but that these contributions will be most effective when coordinated and amplified through collaborative effort. The delegation includes both traditional elders and younger tribal members with advanced degrees in business and economics, representing the same kind of bridge building between ancient wisdom and contemporary knowledge that has characterized Chaitin's entire career. Their proposal envisions a network of tribal enterprises that share profits, expertise, and market access while maintaining the cultural sovereignty and spiritual integrity of each participating community. The alliance would also serve as a vehicle for sharing indigenous economic wisdom with non-native communities and organizations, creating revenue streams that support tribal sovereignty while contributing to the broader transformation of global economic consciousness. As evening approaches and the delegation prepares to depart, Chaitin walks with them to the top of the hill overlooking the institute, where a circle of stones marks the spot where he received his original vision all those years ago. The cottonwood tree has grown larger and more magnificent, its branches now providing shade for a small amphitheater where evening ceremonies and storytelling sessions are held regularly, continuing the ancient tradition of sharing wisdom through sacred narrative while adapting it to serve contemporary needs. Standing in this sacred space with the tribal leaders, watching the sun set over the prairie that has been his home and his inspiration throughout his journey, Chaitin reflects on how the work has come full circle, returning to its roots in indigenous wisdom while branching out to serve the healing and prosperity needs of the entire human family. The vision he received as a young man has manifested not as a single achievement, but as an ongoing process of creation and service that will continue long after his individual contribution has ended, carried forward by the thousands of students and colleagues and partners who have embraced the sacred commerce path and made it their own. The delegation shares stories of successful projects and programs in their own communities, ventures that demonstrate the practical application of traditional values to contemporary economic challenges. There is the tribal college that has become a model for indigenous education, combining traditional knowledge with cutting-edge technology to prepare young people for leadership in the modern world while maintaining deep connection to their cultural roots. There is the intertribal renewable energy cooperative that is providing clean power to dozens of communities while generating profits that fund social programs and cultural preservation efforts. There is the Indigenous Foods Network that is revitalizing traditional agriculture while creating new markets for heritage crops, improving both community health and economic prosperity. Each story reinforces Chaitin's understanding that abundance consciousness is not a theory, but a lived reality, not an abstract concept, but a practical approach to creating wealth that serves multiple generations while honoring the sacred relationships that bind all beings together in the great web of existence. The success of these various projects and the continuing expansion of the sacred commerce movement provide concrete evidence that another way of doing business is not only possible, but more effective than traditional approaches, creating a demonstration effect that is gradually shifting consciousness throughout society. As the stars begin to appear in the darkening sky, the same stars that have watched over countless generations of his people and will continue to shine long after the current challenges have been resolved and new ones have taken their place. Chaitan feels a deep sense of completion and continuity, recognizing that his individual journey is part of a much larger story that extends through time and space to include all beings who have ever sought to serve something greater than themselves, while creating abundance that honors both individual needs and collective welfare. The sound of flowing water from the river below, the fragrance of prairie flowers carried on the evening breeze, the vast expanse of sky above filled with infinite stars. All of these become symbols of the eternal abundance that is the birthright of every human being. Reminders that you too are called to serve as a bridge between ancient wisdom and contemporary prosperity. A creator of abundance that flows not just through your own life, but through the lives of all those you touch with your unique gifts and authentic service. As sleep begins to claim you, carried along by the gentle rhythm of Chaitan's breathing and the eternal whisper of wind through grass, you rest in the profound knowing that your own vision quest has already begun, that your own prosperity medicine is already awakening, and that the abundance you seek is even now flowing toward you like a river returning to the sea, bringing with it all the resources and opportunities you need to fulfill your highest purpose while creating wealth that serves the welfare of 7 generations yet to be born. Rest now in this vision of infinite possibility, feeling the solid earth supporting your dreams like the loving arms of the grandmother earth herself, the vast sky holding your aspirations like a sacred bowl capable of containing all hopes and prayers, the eternal flow of abundance moving through your life like the sacred waters of the great rivers that have sustained life on this continent since the beginning of time, flowing toward the great ocean of universal prosperity that connects all beings in one vast circulation of giving and receiving, of blessing and gratitude, of service and abundance that honors the sacred nature of existence itself. Your subconscious mind absorbs every word of wisdom, every principle of sacred commerce, every truth about your natural inheritance of abundance, programming itself for success, while your conscious mind drifts into the healing sleep of one who knows beyond doubt that prosperity is not only possible, but inevitable when approached with the wisdom of the ancestors and the courage to serve something greater than oneself. Sleep deeply, knowing that you are awakening to abundance, drifting into dreams of prosperity, floating on the river of 7 generations that carries all deserving souls toward their destiny of sacred wealth and meaningful service, where individual success and collective welfare merge into one flowing stream of blessing that nourishes all life and honors the sacred reciprocity that maintains the balance and beauty of creation itself. In the deepest part of the night, when the moon has traveled across the star-scattered sky and now hangs low on the western horizon like a silver bowl holding the dreams of all sleeping beings, Chaitin's story continues to unfold in the realm of spirit and vision, where the boundaries of individual identity dissolve into the greater mystery, and his personal journey becomes a doorway through which universal truths can flow into manifestation for the benefit of all beings who hunger for authentic abundance and meaningful prosperity.